So excited about what's going on with the Four Nations face-off. We got the All-Star Weekend happening, and this week is the unofficial/official start to MLS and Inter Miami's season. So bringing in my dude Daniel Solana to bring it all in. Daniel, break it down in layman's terms. Two different kind of starts to the season. Tuesday is the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then Saturday is the beginning of the MLS season. First and foremost, kind of break down, like I said in layman's term, what does CONCACAF Champions Cup mean for Inter Miami and for their fans?
Yeah, so CONCACAF Champions Cup is essentially like the Champions League of the CONCACAF division. So essentially, what you're going to see are kind of like the Copa Libertadores, like how they play in South America. So this is the start of the international tournament. There's going to be some MLS teams. There's also some teams from Mexico, from Central America. If Inter Miami gets through to the next round, just like you said, Dan, they kick off on Tuesday against Sporting Kansas City. It's a two-leg matchup where they'll play the first leg in Kansas City in what looks like is going to be 0-degree weather and some snow. And then the second leg will be played in Fort Lauderdale at Chase Stadium next week. And the winner of that will take on Jamaican team, and if I get their name correct, Cavalier FC. So the winner of that series will take on Jamaican team Cavalier FC in the next round of the CONCACAF Champions League, which I think is fantastic. Seeing Messi and Suarez and Busquets and Alba play in Jamaica would be fantastic.
The 0-degree weather scares me. Does Messi and Suarez and Alba, do they have experience in cold weather? Should this not be a factor, or is this going to be a factor?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a factor. Obviously, 0-degree weather is very, very cold. But these guys have been playing in Europe for many, many years. Suarez played in Liverpool. It gets cold over there in England.
It's 0 degrees, Daniel.
Yeah, but hey, these guys have played in all different types of weathers. They've played in altitude. So, look, I think it'll be a factor. I just don't think it's going to be as big a factor as what a lot of folks are making it out to be, considering, it's not just Inter Miami that has to play in the snow. It also is Sporting Kansas City. So I understand they might be a little bit more used to it.
I would think they're more familiar with it. Yeah, they're more familiar with it. Like if you talk, this is an interesting leg because you're talking about this Tuesday, 0-degree weather and possible snow. And then the following week, it's probably going to be 82 degrees.
Saturday, and then Saturday they play here at Chase Stadium.
Right, but then they play the second leg of this matchup at Chase Stadium. It's probably going to be 82 degrees. Like there's an 80-degree difference in the week that they're playing. I think Sporting KC will have the advantage. I think they're used to playing in this type of environment and this type of cold. And remember, these guys are old. Old don't like cold. Like they like the warm weather so that their bones and their muscles are,
Dolphins players are all young and they can't win in the cold either. So I mean, young or old, I don't think the cold really matters. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Vlad, but hey, I've played in the cold weather and it's tough, but hey, it's doable. It's doable. And I think these guys are absolute professionals. They've played in the cold weather before. Will it affect them? Yes. I'm not going to be crazy and say, hey, there's not going to be any effect. There will be some sort of crazy weather effect, and we still have to wait and see if they're going to play it, because if it snows that bad in Kansas City, they might not even play the game on Tuesday. They might move it out. So we're going to have to wait.
They're not going to play it. Come on, are you kidding me? Those 38-year-old superstars, they're not playing that frozen tundra of Sporting KC. Get out of here.
But if they get through it, then it's fun in the sun here in South Florida and Jamaica.
Man, please. They're not playing that beat. Man, get out of here.
So MLS season starts this Saturday, 2:30, right down the road at Chase Stadium. It's going to be NYCFC, a formidable opponent. Kind of explain, Daniel, what to expect in that, and kind of what does that mean, the beginning of the MLS season, for someone that's maybe a very, very casual soccer/Inter Miami fan?
Yeah, so the beginning of MLS season is essentially like week one of college football, or week one of the NFL. You're going to have all sorts of games this weekend. A lot of teams are going to be playing. Inter Miami kicks off, like Dan said, on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, at 3:30 in the afternoon over at Chase Stadium. They play New York City FC, who was in the playoffs last year. They just lost one of their best players, Santi Rodriguez, to Botafogo in the Brazilian league. So they'll be missing one of their better players in that matchup against Inter Miami. But look, Inter Miami is coming off of a preseason where they were undefeated. They tied their last match on Valentine's Day on Friday against a rival. And I know a lot of folks said preseason doesn't matter, but a rivalry game always matters. And I think the fact that they played that rivalry game is huge because it allows the players to get into the MLS space and to get into the mind frame of playing some of these teams that they're going to be playing against, because prior to that, they played a couple Central American teams and a team from South America. So they need to get into the rhythm of playing against the competition that they're going to be playing against week in and week out. So this is week 1 of 34 games that Inter Miami will play this season for the MLS Cup. They're also, as Dan mentioned, they play CONCACAF Champions League. They'll also be playing Leagues Cup. And then Inter Miami 2, their MLS Next Pro team, is going to be playing the U.S. Open Cup this year. So Inter Miami is full of tournaments, of games this season. And we still haven't even mentioned the Club World Cup, which they're going to at least be participating in 3 games. So it is going to be an absolute slobber knocker of a year for Inter Miami in terms of games, in terms of tournaments, in terms of cups. Oh, yes.
Damn, Solana went Jim Ross on a slobber knocker. Okay, I got it. I like it. By the way, do you think really Orlando City is really Inter Miami's rival?
Don't start with me.
Stop.
You know I'm fired up today because of some USA Canada thing.
Yeah, okay.
You start talking about Orlando City. You start talking about
now it's club. Now this is not about country. This is about club. And do you really consider them a rival?
It's a derby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a forced derby, obviously, because they're both within the state, so it's your state rival, and you always want to, beat your state rival. But if you're really thinking about maybe bigger rivalries, maybe until last year I would have said Nashville, just because you had played them so many times. You beat them in the Leagues Cup final. I would have said maybe Nashville, but really at the end of the day, I think Inter Miami's derby has to be Orlando City. And just seeing how the game started off last week, Orlando City came out to play, fellas. Orlando City came out to play, and Inter Miami didn't back down. I thought it was a fantastic first half until the subs came in, and then the game kind of went down a little bit.
What is the best rivalry in interstate in South Florida?
Miami, Florida State.
Well, besides that, that's the ultimate. No. Besides the college ones get out. I'm talking about professional. Is it Marlins Rays?
No.
Lightning Panthers?
Lightning Panthers. You saw them fighting last
Heat Magic?
No,
or Inter Orlando City?
Lightning Panthers. Lightning Panthers. No
Lightning
doubt.
Panthers is one?
Yeah. Man, I'll tell you, Orlando City's dirty as hell. Before we ever played a match, they were putting out videos. Oh, the Fort Lauderdale, Inter Miami, And remember the team we had to beat to make our first playoffs. We score in the first minute against Orlando City, whoop that trick, and go to the playoffs. That was a couple of years back. Orlando City, there's been some nasty talk, some nastiness in the business. So I'm giving you the reason why this is a derby, at least.
Dan Day's making a valid case to make this might be number 2 then. This might be the number 2 heated in-state rivalry professionally.
You can talk to my supporters group, Vice City 1896. They say that the Orlando City fans have been nasty physically and verbally whenever they've gone to their territory.
You know what that means? We're going to an Orlando City Inter Miami derby in Orlando.
Daniel, you're driving.
Let's go. Let's do it. No, seriously, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go out there and rep.
We got Vice City 1896.
Let's do it.
Out there.
Do it.
Southern Siege will be there.
I don't like it. Dan, I don't know if you lying, but my cousin wouldn't lie to me. You really say they talk hella trash like that about Inter Miami like that?
Oh yeah.
All right, it's time.
Oh yeah, Vlad, you didn't hear about what some of the supporter groups in Orlando from Orlando City did a couple years ago. They came down and they spread purple paint all over one of the Vice City kind of paintings that they did in Wynwood. You didn't hear about that?
Nah.
Oh, yeah. So you didn't? It's heated, man. They came in, they put purple paint all over one of those murals that they did out in Wynwood.
I like it,
Miami. So
I like it.
Orlando City, you better watch out. We're like the Kachuk brothers. We'll come for you. Drop the gloves.
Vlad's gonna have his arms folded.
Hey, we make a pretty 9 in the NHL between the three of us. I'm just saying.
Drop the gloves. Now, Daniel, we are starting the MLS season, and basically it's the unofficial and official start of the season for Inter Miami this year. Of course, we know Lionel Messi. We know El Pistolero, Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba. We know about Sergio Busquets. Who is a player, maybe not a big name, that we really need to look out for this year and you expect to really make a name for themselves with Inter Miami? So as we watch and as we listen this year, who is one of the under-the-radar guys that we should be looking for?
Well, I don't know if he's really under the radar. Inter Miami just signed him during this offseason. Young Venezuelan international, Telasco Segovia. He got his first start for Inter Miami against Orlando City. I thought he was fantastic during the game. He showed that he has excellent talent, great movement, beautiful vision on the field. He just needs a little bit more time to mesh and get some chemistry with his teammates. Another young guy who I really, really am excited for once they finally announce his signing and they bring him in is Allen Obando, the Ecuadorian striker from Barcelona Sporting Club. He's 18 years old. They say he's the next best thing coming out of Ecuador. Ecuadorians have some fantastic soccer, and he's really one guy who I'm really excited about. He's going to come over to back up Suarez, and I mean, we need a backup 9. We need, especially now that Campana is gone. And really, I think Obando could be a lot better than what Campana was for Inter Miami. So those are my two kind of who to watch for or young players to watch for during this Inter Miami season.
Daniel Solana, let's keep the controversy going. You've said it a bunch of times. Does Drake Callender finish as the starting goalkeeper for this team this season?
I don't even think he starts as a starting goalkeeper.
Ooh.
So you don't see him starting Tuesday?
No, absolutely not. I think Ustadi is a starter. Me personally, I think it's a little weird how Drake has apparently been practicing, but he's been hurt. A lot of rumors are that he had some sort of adductor injury, something to his quad. But we've seen him in videos out on the practice field with the goalkeepers. Maybe he's not doing full work, but he didn't travel with the team over to Tampa Bay to play the game against Orlando City. And to be honest with you, I don't know how he can start, Vlad. He hasn't played 1 minute this offseason. Ustadi has basically played all the minutes except for a few that Rocco Novo has played. So at the end of the day, Ustadi to me is your number one guy. And at this point, you need to be looking for a trade or you need to be looking for a loan or something for Drake Callender.
Yeah, but you're also looking at this, Daniel, and I hate to say it, the core, especially with Ustadi, you've got a core of a very old team. Is that going to be something we need to worry about towards the end of the season and maybe in the postseason?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all, because this team has reinforced itself with a lot of young players. Like I said, Telasco Segovia, Alan Obando, Tadeo Allende, who's in his 20s, and he's very good. You also have Federico Redondo in the midfielder. You have Yannick Bright in the midfield. You have Noah Allen, who has played a fantastic preseason, and he showed he can now play both left center back and left back. You brought in another player who's in his mid-20s to late 20s, Maxi Falcon, who's going to be fantastic as a center back. So absolutely not. I think this team has all the pieces that they need in order to be successful this season. I said on an earlier show this week that I was on, I think the minimum has to be to win 2 cups.
I was going to ask
any
you that.
2 cups. 2 cups.
Is there a possibility? What is the chance that we get a treble or, you know what I say, winning them all or winning a bunch of cups?
A brace?
You were going to...
You might win 2. You might win 2.
Personally, I think Inter Miami has to aim for the MLS Cup. That's got to be one. That's got to be one. And then 2, obviously the Supporters Shield would be nice because then you can host all the games in the playoffs. But okay, again, looking back at last year, the Supporters Shield, although it's great for the supporters to have and to take pictures with, it doesn't mean anything if you're not hosting up the MLS trophy at the end of the year. And that's really, unfortunately, as much as I disagree with it, that's really what you have to focus on and aim for is lifting up that MLS Cup. And the other trophy that I think that they really are going to focus on is that CONCACAF Champions League. I think that, getting that CONCACAF Champions League will give them that international trophy that they've longed for. That's not the Leagues Cup. Of course, one of the tournaments that has been vastly criticized by a lot of people because they don't like it. But this year, I'm loving it, boys. I'm loving it because Inter Miami is not playing any MLS teams, and they only get to play 3 Mexican teams, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let me have you 2 quick questions. 1, with all the transfers that you've seen with the MLS, as you've seen players from other players going to other clubs, other countries and playing, and MLS getting players from other clubs. What do you think about that? The transfer period, and how is that a great thing? Way that we're basically importing and exporting players from other clubs and other, federal other leagues. And second, Man City has no shot at Real Madrid next week in Champions League.
I'm going to go with 2. I'm going to go with number 2 first because number 2 is easy. I agree, Vlad. There's something about the Santiago Bernabeu where for Champions League nights, it's a special atmosphere. I think the fact that they lost the first leg at home at the Etihad really puts them in a really deep hole, and they haven't looked good except for yesterday. They did win yesterday. They were playing against, I don't even remember. That's who they were playing against. But I agree with you, Vlad. I think Real Madrid takes it over Man City. Unfortunately, Real Madrid didn't play well this weekend. They tied, as if I remember correctly. But Champions League is just different, and for some reason, Real Madrid has Champions League DNA. Now, going back to your first question that you asked me, do I think it's fantastic, or what do I think about how MLS is buying and selling players from different leagues? I think it's great. I think MLS needs to become a selling league in order to then be able to up the cap space, give teams a little bit more spending money so that they can also become a buying league. We've seen them spend a lot of money this transfer window on a lot of players. Some of those I've questioned, a lot, like Atlanta's signing of Latela. To me, I think spending $27 million for a player who comes from the league championship division is absolutely preposterous. I would have said 12 to 15 would make more sense, especially when you've seen some of these other players within the league now with the new rule where you can buy a player, with cash. You see Lucho Acosta moving from Cincinnati to Dallas. You've seen Evander moving from Portland over to the Eastern Conference to play in the Eastern Conference. So again, you've seen a lot of these players moving in and out, players being bought from outside. But I think what needs to happen is the owners, and more so the general managers, need to become a little bit more efficient in their spending, because you're going to see that some of these, look, maybe Latte La destroys it and scores 50 goals and he's going to shut my mouth, maybe. But from what I've seen, if you are spending $28 million on a champion, a League One or a league championship league player, then what are you going to spend for, Neymar if he's going to come in the summer? $100 million? And we know that that's not going to happen, because not even Messi makes that much. So you got to start setting standards for what you're going to try to spend. If not, you're going to spend tons of money for mid players all the time.
Yeah, you can't just throw money at it and think it's going to fix everything. So, Battered Herons podcast, Daniel Solana at Danny Solana 5.
The better Solana, as I like to call them.
At Battered Herons. Join us next week. Hopefully, we'll be talking about and celebrating 2, not 1, but 2 Inter Miami victories.